When Vadim spotted his ex-wife in an upscale restaurant, he smirked and prepared to mock her in front of his mistress. He was certain Anna was barely scraping by now. But the moment the waiter addressed her with quiet respect, his smug smile slowly slid off his face. Anna Vetrova once stood at a bus stop, gripping a worn suitcase in her hands. Her entire world was packed inside it, neatly folded clothes, a few thousand rubles in her wallet, and one big dream. She had always known her future belonged in the kitchen. As a child, she could spend hours beside her mother at the stove, watching every movement, every secret of cooking. Anna knew that one day she would have her own restaurant, a place where she would create something truly special. But for now, a vast gray city stretched out in front of her. No one was waiting for her here. She had to rely only on herself. At first, everything was hard. Without experience, finding work was nearly impossible. Housing required money she barely had. Luckily, she managed to rent a tiny room in an old communal apartment. A roof over my head is what matters, she told herself, studying the peeling walls and the dim bulb hanging from the ceiling. The rest will come. She quickly found a job as a waitress in a small cafe near the metro. The staff was a mixed bunch, a constantly irritated administrator, an exhausted head cook, 2 kitchen assistants, and other waitresses just like her. She worked 12-hour shifts on her feet, but the pay was low, and customers were rarely generous with tips. Some evenings, when her legs throbbed with exhaustion and her stomach growled from hunger, Anna caught herself wondering if leaving her hometown had been a mistake. Yet every morning before her shift, she opened her laptop and watched culinary courses. Sometimes she wrote down recipes, dreaming of the day she would create her own signature dish. One evening, while she was absorbed in another cooking video, Sveta burst into the room. Svetlana Voronina, her roommate and friend, was Anna's complete opposite, loud, energetic, always armed with sharp sarcasm. They had met during Anna's very first days in the city. "How long are you going to watch this?" Sveta groaned. "But this is my dream," Anna replied with a tired smile. "A dream is great, but you want to eat now, not someday. Maybe you should look for a better job." Anna stayed silent. She knew her friend was right, but she had no choice. Her goal was culinary college, and for that she needed money. That night, lying on the creaky bed, she closed her eyes and imagined opening the doors to her own restaurant one day, smelling fresh bread and spices, hearing the soft hum of satisfied guests. "It'll work out," she whispered into the darkness. "I'll make it." The cafe was buzzing during the evening rush. Anna moved skillfully through the narrow aisles with a tray, barely keeping up with customers calling out orders. The air was thick with the scent of freshly brewed coffee and warm pastries. She was about to slip into the kitchen for another order when Sveta nudged her with an elbow. "Look to the right," she murmured. "That guy's definitely not here just for coffee." Anna turned and saw a man who clearly stood out. He sat by the window, casually flipping through the menu. His suit was expensive, a thin gold watch glinted on his wrist, and his gaze was sharp and attentive. She approached him. "Good evening. Are you ready to order?" The man slowly lifted his head. His dark eyes slid over her face, and one corner of his mouth lifted slightly. "Good evening. You make good coffee here?" "We do," Anna replied. "But personally, I prefer tea." He smiled. "So tea it is. Can you recommend a dessert?" Anna hesitated for a second. She usually didn't linger at tables longer than necessary, but this time she suddenly wanted to keep the conversation going. "I'll take that one then." He leaned forward slightly. "And what's your name?" "Anna," she answered, surprising herself. "A beautiful name. Mine's Vadim." She nodded and hurried to the kitchen, but on her way back she caught herself glancing toward his table again. The next day, Vadim returned. Then again, and again. He left generous tips, held her gaze a little longer than usual, told stories about business, travel, and luxury restaurants. "Do you even realize who he is?" Sveta asked one evening, arms crossed. "Men like that don't act randomly. He's not some guy who will invite you to a cheap movie. He's from a completely different world." "You're exaggerating," Anna said. "Look at him. He's rich, successful, and suddenly interested in a simple waitress. You think that's a coincidence?" Anna just shrugged, though something inside her tightened. The next evening, Vadim waited for her after work. "I have something for you," he said, handing her a small box. Anna opened it and gasped. Inside was a delicate silver bracelet with a tiny heart-shaped charm. "Vadim, this is too much. It's just a sign of attention. I want to make you happy." She blushed but accepted the gift. Sveta only shook her head. "He's too good to be true." "Be careful." Anna didn't even notice how deeply she fell for Vadim. He was attentive, caring, confident, as if every door in the world was already open to him. He gave gifts without reason, always knew the right words, always knew how to surprise, and most importantly, he didn't see just a waitress in her, he saw a woman worthy of more. Only 2 months had passed since their first meeting, when one evening he invited her to. The restaurant was not a place for ordinary guests. Soft, dim lighting, snow-white tablecloths, waiters in perfectly tailored suits. Anna still wasn't used to places like this, even though Vadim kept assuring her that she was part of this world now. When dessert was served, he suddenly took out a small box. Without taking his eyes off her, he opened it. Inside was a ring, thin, elegant, with a diamond that shimmered in the candlelight. "Marry me," he said simply. Anna froze. She knew he was serious, but she hadn't expected it to happen so fast. "Vadim," she looked at him, confused. "I want to be with you. I need you. Let's not waste time." A lump rose in her throat. No one had ever spoken to her like that before. In that moment, she felt special, important. She nodded, unable to say a word. When she told her parents, they were shocked. "Sweetheart, are you sure?" her mother said anxiously. 2 months is so little time." "We love each other," Anna replied. "Love is tested by time," her mother insisted. "Don't you think he's rushing?" Her father stayed silent, but his look said he was just as skeptical. "Has he told you much about himself?" "What kind of business does he have? What about his family?" Anna sighed. "He works in investments. He doesn't really talk about his family." "Dad, I've already made my decision." Her parents exchanged glances but didn't argue. They understood she wouldn't listen anymore. Sveta reacted sharply too. "Are you out of your mind?" 2 months. Do you even know him?" "I do." "He's kind, caring. Then why is he in such a hurry?" "I'm not 20 anymore to date for years." "Anna, you have a head on your shoulders. Something isn't right here," Anna flared up. "You're just jealous." "Jealous?" Sveta laughed. "Wake up. I'm trying to protect you." Anna didn't want to listen. The wedding was modest, a registry office ceremony and dinner at a restaurant. Vadim said he didn't like lavish celebrations. Then he brought her to a new apartment, huge, with panoramic windows overlooking the city. "This is your home now," he said, wrapping his arm around her waist. Anna looked around, unable to believe her happiness. Everything had happened so fast, like a fairy tale. Only she didn't know yet that fairy tales sometimes end far too early. After the wedding, everything changed. Vadim was no longer the attentive, caring man she had fallen in love with. He started coming home late, barely showed interest in her life, and any attempt to talk ended with irritation. Not now, later, or just silence. Anna tried to explain it away as fatigue, as getting used to married life, but deep inside, something told her that something was wrong. Worst of all, she suddenly became completely dependent. Her bank card was blocked. Vadim said he'd open a new one for her, more convenient. In reality, it was convenient for him. He transferred money himself and controlled all expenses. "But it's uncomfortable for me to ask every time if I can buy something," Anna said once. "You're my wife," he replied calmly. "Why should you worry about money at all? I'll take care of everything." It's easier this way. She felt something was wrong, but she didn't argue. Then, a couple weeks later, things got worse. Casually, as if it meant nothing, Vadim said, "By the way, Ksenia is my cousin. She'll stay with us for a while until she finds an apartment." Anna didn't know what to say. What felt strange was how quickly Ksenia started acting like the owner of the place. She used Anna's expensive cosmetics, left her clothes in the living room, gave orders to the housekeeper, and made comments she pretended were harmless. "You're lucky," Ksenia said once with a smirk. Vadim always knew how to choose what he needed. Those words stuck in Anna's mind, though she didn't yet understand what was hidden behind them. Then Vadim brought up a loan. "We need to expand," he said over dinner.
"There's a great business idea, but I need additional funds. You said your finances were fine." "They are, but this is an investment. And you have a good credit history. We'll put it in your name. It's easier. It's for both of us." Anna hesitated. On one hand, he was her husband. They were family. On the other, she had never dealt with finances, let alone taken out loans.
I need to think, she said quietly. What is there to think about? Irritation crept into Vadim's voice. I'm not a stranger. This is business. Anna, you're not a child. She lowered her eyes. He had never spoken to her like that before. Okay, she whispered. I'll think about it. Anna woke up early the next morning. Vadim wasn't home. He had left on business the night before and hadn't returned. Ksenia was gone too, and the apartment felt unnaturally quiet. She made herself some tea and sat at the kitchen table. The loan wouldn't leave her mind. She didn't like the idea, but Vadim was pushing harder and harder. His irritation when she hesitated scared her. Why does he need a loan in my name if he has money? She was stirring her tea absently when she heard the lock click in the hallway. Vadim was back. She was about to leave the kitchen when she stopped, hearing his voice. Yes, Ksusha, everything's fine. Anna froze. He was on the phone, and judging by his tone, he didn't know she was home. The bank already gave preliminary approval. All that's left is to get her to sign the papers. Anna tensed. Of course she doesn't suspect anything, he laughed softly. You should see the way she looks at me, like a little puppy. Anna went cold. I told you, Ksusha, don't worry. The moment we finalize the loan, we're gone. Spain is waiting. And that little fool? Let her deal with the debts herself. Anna's fingers clenched so tightly that her nails dug into her palms. Every word echoed in her ears like a dull, metallic ring. Little fool. Let her deal with it herself. She couldn't breathe. She couldn't believe it. They had lied to her, used her. Carefully, deliberately. Slowly, trying not to make a sound, she stepped away from the kitchen door. Her heart pounded so hard it felt like it might give her away. If she hadn't overheard that conversation, in just a couple days she might have signed those documents and been left alone, drowning in debt with nothing. Terror squeezed her chest, but there was no time to panic. She had to leave. She rushed into the bedroom and pulled out a suitcase. She didn't know how long she had before Vadim finished his call, but she couldn't waste a second. Clothes, documents, her phone, the little bit of money she'd managed to save, everything went into the suitcase in frantic handfuls. Vadim's voice still drifted from the kitchen. 2, 3 days max, and it's done. Anna snapped the suitcase shut. On tiptoe, she moved into the hallway. At the front door, she paused for just a second and closed her eyes. Just go. Just open the door and walk out. She took a deep breath and stepped across the threshold without looking back. Down the stairs. Out into the street. The cold air burned her face. She was alone, but for the first time in a long while, she felt she had done the right thing. Later, standing in front of another door, Anna couldn't bring herself to press the bell. The city roared around her, cars rushing by, people hurrying somewhere important. And she stood there with a suitcase in her hand, feeling like she'd been erased from her own life. When she left Vadim, she hadn't thought about where she would go. In that moment, only one thing mattered, escaping the trap he had set for her. Now she had no home, no real money, not even a clear plan for tomorrow. She inhaled slowly and pressed the doorbell. The door opened almost immediately. Sveta stood in the doorway in a bathrobe, a cup of tea in her hand. She looked Anna up and down, then at the suitcase, and frowned. What are you doing here? Anna couldn't answer right away. A lump rose in her throat, and she dropped her gaze. Did he kick you out? No. I left. So it finally hit you. Sveta set the cup on a shelf by the door and crossed her arms. And now what? Can I stay with you? Just for a while. Until I figure things out. Sveta looked at her for a long time, as if deciding whether to let her back into her life at all. I warned you, she finally said. Anna nodded. I know. No, you don't. You said I was jealous. Do you know how much that hurt? I thought of you like a sister. And you. Anna felt her eyes sting. Sveta, please. Sveta sighed, turned, and walked deeper into the apartment, leaving the door open. Anna took it as an invitation and stepped inside. Put the suitcase against the wall. You'll sleep on the couch. Tomorrow you're going job hunting. Thank you. Don't thank me. Thank your luck that I'm not the kind of person who holds grudges, Sveta muttered before disappearing into the kitchen. The next morning, Anna woke up early. She couldn't afford to sit around. She opened her laptop, scanned job listings, sent out several resumes. Everywhere wanted experience or paperwork she didn't have. What are you even looking for? Sveta called from the kitchen. Go work at a restaurant as a waitress. At least they pay right away. Anna hesitated. It wasn't the life she had imagined, but it was a way out. She found several restaurants hiring and went to interviews. The first two turned her down, no experience, schedule issues. At the third, a small, cozy restaurant serving traditional Russian cuisine, the manager listened carefully, nodded, and said, "All right, you start tomorrow." Anna barely held back tears of relief. It wasn't much, but it was a chance to begin again. Her first shift was brutal. She had been used to the rhythm of a calf, but this was faster, stricter, more demanding. Waiters rushed between tables, cooks shouted orders, the administrator monitored every move. Anna tried to keep up, but still felt clumsy. She mixed up orders, spilled tea twice, nearly collided with a colleague. No one yelled at her. They just looked at her with quiet sympathy. Toward the end of the evening, she stepped into the kitchen for a moment to catch her breath. At a large table stood the head chef, a man in his 50s with thick mustaches and a stern gaze. Andrei Viktorovich. "Pass the salt," one of the cooks said. "Next time get it yourself, your hands won't fall off," the chef muttered, though he nudged the jar over. Anna watched him slice meat with precise, confident movements, test the sauce with barely a touch of the spoon. It looked almost like magic. "What are you standing there for?" His voice cut sharp as a blade. She flinched. "Sorry. I was just watching. This isn't a theater. Watch the customers in the dining room. In here you work." She nodded and turned to leave, but suddenly stopped herself. "Your sauce is too thick." He lifted his heavy gaze to her. "What?" "The sauce," she repeated, realizing she might be making a mistake. "It's too thick. You kept it on the heat too long. If you add a little broth, it'll be smoother." The kitchen fell silent. The cooks exchanged looks. Someone gave a quiet snort. Andrei Viktorovich studied her, then picked up a spoon and tasted it. The chef muttered something under his breath, then, without looking at her, splashed a couple of spoonfuls into the pot. "Just work," he said shortly. Anna walked out, feeling her ears burn. The next day he approached her himself. "Where did you study?" "Nowhere." "Can you cook?" "Only at home." He gave a quiet, skeptical grunt. "You'll help in the kitchen after your shift." "No pay." Anna froze. "Like an internship?" "No, it's help for me. You either learn or you get in the way." She struggled to hide her smile. I agree, that was the beginning of her new path. From then on, after every shift, she stayed in the kitchen. She watched the cooks work, chopped vegetables, kneaded dough, and listened carefully as Andrei Viktorovich explained, briefly without much softness, how to make sauces properly, how to bring broth to the perfect depth of flavor, how to handle meat with precision. It was exhausting. Sometimes it felt overwhelming. But she understood one thing clearly. This was her world now, and she wasn't going to lose it. One evening the restaurant was packed, every table full, voices blending into a restless hum, the air thick with the scent of spices, waiters moving swiftly between tables. Anna barely had a moment to breathe. Viktorovich demanded discipline. If you want to learn properly, not in between tasks, he liked to repeat. And Anna tried. As she approached the bar for drinks once again, the administrator subtly nodded toward a table in the far corner. "See that man? That's Mikhail Samoilov." Anna glanced at him questioningly. "He owns a chain of restaurants. Successful businessman. Comes here often, watches how places operate. They say he's always looking for promising people." Anna shrugged and continued working. But when she brought the order to his table, she couldn't help studying him more closely. Around 40. Fit. A touch of gray at his temples. Expensive but understated suit. He was looking at the menu with a faint smile, as if he already knew what he would order and was simply testing how it was presented. "Good evening," she said, holding her notepad. "Good evening." He looked up at her carefully. "What's truly worth trying tonight?" She paused for a second. "The beef, cheeks, and wine sauce, so confident. Have you tried them yourself?" "No, but I know how they're prepared." His eyebrow lifted slightly. "So you're not just a waitress?" "No. I'm learning from the chef." Mikhail Samoilov placed his order. When the dish arrived, he tasted it and nodded, clearly pleased. Anna was about to step away when his voice stopped her. "What would you add to this?" She froze. The question caught her off guard. Maybe a little rosemary at the end of the braising process. It would deepen the sauce. He looked at her again, this time more thoughtfully. "Are you truly interested in this?" "Yes. It's my dream," she answered honestly. He seemed to consider something. "I have a project," he said at last. "I want to open a small signature cafe. Honest food, a home-like atmosphere, everything real. But I need someone who will put their soul into it." Anna felt like she hadn't heard correctly. "Me? Why not? You're hardworking. You have taste and desire. I'll give you an opportunity if you're ready to take a risk." She swallowed. It was too sudden, too bold, but inside, something whispered that this was the kind of chance that comes once in a lifetime. "I'm ready." Mikhail smiled. "Then let's meet tomorrow and discuss the details." In that moment, Anna understood her life had just changed forever. On her way home, her heart raced with adrenaline. It all felt unreal. What if he changed his mind? What if he disappeared like a mirage? But his voice had been serious, steady. He had given her a chance, and she had no right to waste it. When she walked into the apartment, Sveta was sitting on the couch with a cup of tea, staring at her laptop. "Why do you look like that?" Sveta asked, raising an eyebrow. Anna dropped her bag on the table and sat beside her, trying to steady her breathing. "Sveta, you won't believe this. Just say it." "I can feel something happened." Anna took a deep breath, gathered her thoughts, and told her everything about Mikhail Samoilov, about the offer, about the opportunity. Sveta listened, frowning slightly. Then she leaned back and exhaled slowly. "Wow." Anna gave a nervous laugh. "And you agreed?" "Of course. Do you even understand the level this is?" "You don't have management experience." "I know," Anna admitted, "but I can't refuse. I've dreamed about this my whole life." Sveta was silent for a few seconds. Then she stood and walked to the window. "Then I'm with you." Anna looked up in surprise. "What? You won't handle this alone. I know how to work with people. I can manage documents. You'll be in the kitchen. I'll take care of the administrative side." Anna jumped up and hugged her. "You have no idea how grateful I am." The next day they met with Mikhail. He had already prepared basic financial estimates, suggested several rental locations, and discussed the concept. "I want this to be a place where people don't just eat," he explained. "They feel warmth, a home-like atmosphere, honest food, no artificial additives, no pretentious fine dining complications, just delicious, simple." "Kind," Anna nodded, writing everything down. "Can you create that kind of menu?" "Yes." "Good. Then let's begin." They drove around the city, viewing different spaces. Some were too small, others too expensive. And then they found it. A modest space in an older neighborhood. Large windows, high ceilings. It needed renovation, but it had potential. "This is it," Anna said quietly, looking around. Mikhail nodded. "Then we'll take it." A few days later, the contract was signed. Renovations began. Anna and Sveta chose tiles and furniture themselves, discussed every detail, argued and laughed and planned late into the night. It was exhausting but incredibly inspiring. They weren't just building a cafe. They were building their future. They were building a new life. There was more work than Anna had ever imagined. While construction crews laid tile and painted walls, she and Sveta spent entire days buried in paperwork. Opening a cafe wasn't just about renting a space and creating a menu. They had to secure permits, apply for licenses, register the business, negotiate supply contracts. They chose a simple but warm name, Home Corner. They wanted people to come not just to eat, but to feel comfort, to breathe, to slow down. The first problems came from suppliers. Prices suddenly increased. Delivery terms changed without warning. Product quality dropped. Anna would burn with frustration, but Sveta stayed cool. "They think they can outsmart us because we're new," she said once, gripping her phone after another tense call. "Let them try. I'll find us decent partners." Anna threw herself completely into the kitchen. She lived it, breathed it. She tested recipes, experimented with combinations, adjusted ingredients again and again until the flavors felt perfect. When the calf was nearly ready, one major question remained. Who would be the head chef? Anna thought about it for a long time. And then she made a decision. She walked into the restaurant where she used to work and knocked on Andrei Viktorovich's office door. "What do you want?" he muttered without looking up from his papers. "I want to offer you a job." He raised his eyebrows. "Have you lost your mind?" "No. You haven't even opened yet." "And you're calling me?" "Yes." He stared at her for a long moment, then smirked slightly. "What kind of place?" "A cozy calf. Honest food. No showmanship, no unnecessary flair. Your style." He gave a short huff. "When do you open?" "In a week." He looked at her again, stood up, grabbed a notebook from his desk, and slipped it into his coat pocket. "All right, let's see what you've got." Anna barely held back a smile. Opening day was chaos. Sveta rushed around the dining room. Anna monitored the kitchen. Andrei Viktorovich grumbled, but worked with sharp precision. The first customers arrived toward evening, at first one by one, then in small groups. Some just stopped in out of curiosity. Others ordered tea and pastries. Anna was nervous, but minute by minute she realized something incredible. They were handling it. By the end of the night, they could barely stand. When they finally locked the doors and sat down at a table in the empty dining room, Mikhail raised his cup of tea. "Well, congratulations, ladies. This is just the beginning." Anna looked around. Yes, it had been hard. But she knew one thing with absolute certainty. She would never return to the life where she had to beg for her own money. She was finally where she belonged. A month passed. Anna began to notice how Home Corner was slowly gaining momentum. At first, customers came cautiously. They ordered simple things, tea with pie, borscht, homemade cutlets. But then they returned and brought friends and recommended the place to others. One morning, when Anna walked into the kitchen, Andrei Viktorovich greeted her with a satisfied grin. "Seen what they wrote about us?" She looked at him in surprise. He handed her his phone. It was an article in a local online magazine about new restaurants in the city. No pretension, no unnecessary details, just food that tastes like home. Home Corner is a place you want to return to. Anna reread it several times, hardly believing her eyes. Is this real? It's real. Now stop staring and get back to work. She laughed and ran into the dining room. Sveta. They published an article about us. Of course they did, Sveta smirked. I personally sent them an invitation. Gradually, the cafe filled with regular guests. Every evening, the tables were fully booked. People started reserving in advance. Anna was proud, but she also saw the strain. The kitchen was working at its absolute limit. One evening, as the day was winding down, Mikhail stopped by. He surveyed the crowded dining room, the occupied tables, and smiled. You've done well. Thank you, Anna said. We're trying. Trying? You've squeezed everything possible out of this place. You need to expand. Anna blinked. Expand? A bigger restaurant, more space. Better equipment. Sveta, who had just joined them, frowned. Mikhail, that's too fast. Maybe. But if not now, then when? You see the demand. You're already turning people away. The cafe isn't made of rubber. Anna went quiet. He was right. They had started refusing guests simply because they couldn't physically serve everyone. I'll help with financing, Mikhail added. But the decision is yours. Sveta looked at Anna. What do you say? Anna ran her hand along the wooden counter, glanced around the room, listened to the soft hum of voices and the clinking of dishes. Let's try. Sveta exhaled heavily. All right. Brace yourselves, girls. A new headache is coming. Anna laughed. There would be more work, more pressure, but she wasn't afraid anymore. She could see their dream growing into something bigger. And now she had people beside her she trusted. She was ready for the next step. Preparing the new restaurant took months. Everything was more complicated than with the cafe. Stricter regulations, more permits, more money, more responsibility. Mikhail helped financially, but even with his support, they counted every dollar. After long discussions, they found the right location, a spacious building in the city center with high ceilings and enormous windows that it used to be a restaurant that had closed long ago. The place needed a complete renovation, but the moment Anna stepped inside, she felt it. This was the one. Sveta grumbled that they were about to spend a mountain of nerves again, but she stood by her anyway. Andrei Viktorovich flatly refused to work at the new place, though he agreed to remain a mentor and help them choose a team. "I'm too old for all this pomp," he muttered, watching Anna passionately discuss new dishes with suppliers. "But you'll manage." Every day felt like running in circles: kitchen layout plans, furniture selection, hiring staff, negotiating product deliveries, endless calls with contractors. One morning, Sveta found Anna asleep at the office desk, surrounded by scattered blueprints and stacks of paperwork. "Wake up, boss," she said, setting a cup of coffee in front of her. Anna slowly opened her eyes. "What time is it?" "Almost 6 a.m. I fell asleep." With a cost calculation still in your hands, Anna gave a weak smile and reached for the coffee. "Are we really going to pull this off?" Sveta shrugged. "You always knew it wouldn't be easy. I know, but sometimes it feels like I've taken on too much. Maybe, but there's no turning back." Anna took a deep breath, looked at the dining room layout, and nodded. "Then let's finish this. We have a restaurant to open. They called it Gastrodome. Not too flashy, but with a subtle promise of quality cuisine and a warm atmosphere." On opening day, Anna was more nervous than she had ever been before. By evening, guests began to arrive: journalists, business people, food lovers. Mikhail brought acquaintances. Even Andrei Viktorovich showed up, grumbling that he hated official events. Anna barely stepped into the dining room. She stayed in the kitchen, listening to the rhythm of service, catching the aromas of the dishes, watching her team move with focused precision. She listened carefully to feedback from the waiters. Then suddenly Sveta grabbed her hand and pulled her out into the hall. "Look," she whispered. Anna looked around. People were sitting at tables, talking, laughing, tasting the food. There was something deeply genuine in the air, not staged, not artificial, real. Warmth spread through her chest. "We did it," she whispered. "Yes," Sveta smiled. "We did." That night, they closed long past midnight. "Well, boss?" Sveta asked, exhausted, dropping onto a bar stool. Anna smiled. "Now we keep working." The restaurant became a success. Reservations filled up days in advance. Journalists wrote glowing reviews. Anna's team worked like clockwork. She was no longer the naive girl who once believed happiness meant marrying a wealthy man. Now she knew happiness was building your own life with your own hands. She didn't notice them at first. The restaurant was full again that evening, every table occupied, waiters moving swiftly, the kitchen operating in its steady rhythm. Anna stood by the host's desk, reviewing reservations for the next day, when she heard a familiar voice. "It's a bit loud in here, isn't it? Isn't this supposed to be a high-class place?" She looked up. Vadim. And Ksenia. He hadn't changed much, the same confident gaze, expensive suit, flawless grooming, but Ksenia looked different. Deliberately glamorous, almost exaggeratedly polished, yet there was something nervous in her posture, as if she were desperately trying to hold on to an image slipping through her fingers. Anna felt a brief tension inside, but quickly composed herself. "How can I help you?" Vadim squinted, as though he couldn't believe what he was seeing. "Anna?" "Yes." Ksenia slowly scanned the restaurant, tapping her long nails against the menu. Well, what a surprise." "Do you work here?" Anna smiled slightly. "In a way. So you're a waitress?" Vadim smirked. "I told you she'd have to come back down to earth." Ksenia gave a thin laugh. After running away so foolishly, Anna said nothing. It felt strange listening to them. Once their words would have hurt, humiliated, angered her. Now they were just strangers. "Anna Sergeyevna," a waiter said politely, interrupting, "the supplier is here. He wants to discuss new menu items." Vadim fell silent instantly. Ksenia stiffened. "Anna Sergeyevna?" Vadim repeated. The waiter smiled lightly. "Yes, she's the owner." Anna met Vadim's gaze. Something shifted in his eyes, first disbelief, then shock, then a flicker of envy mixed with frustration. "You're the owner?" Yes, she answered calmly. Ksenia nervously adjusted her dress. Well, I guess taking his money helped you land somewhere better, she said sharply. Money? Anna raised an eyebrow. Do you mean the loan you tried to put in my name? Ksenia froze. Vadim clenched his jaw. It's amazing how quickly you forget what really happened, Anna continued evenly. But it doesn't matter. You have your life. I have mine. Vadim stared at her for a long moment, as if struggling to reconcile the woman before him with the one who once looked at him with naive devotion. Let's go, he muttered, taking Ksenia's hand. She started to protest, but he was already heading toward the exit. Anna calmly watched them leave, then returned to her work. The past had finally stayed where it belonged. Later, she stepped out onto the restaurant terrace. The guests were gone. The city shimmered with evening lights. A cool breeze brushed her skin after the long day. She took a deep breath and allowed herself, just for a moment, to relax. Meeting Vadim and Ksenia had left no wounds, no anger, no bitterness, no need to prove anything, only a quiet, peaceful sense of completion and the steady confidence of someone who had built her own future from the ground up, and with it came the quiet realization that this chapter of her life was finally, completely closed. You okay? Sveta's voice broke the silence. Anna nodded without turning around. Yeah, I'm just thinking about them, about how everything changed. Sveta sighed and sat beside her, placing 2 cups of tea on the table. I don't want to upset you, but that guy still doesn't seem to understand what happened. What do you mean? Vadim. When he left, he looked at you like he had just lost something important. Anna gave a faint, almost amused smile. He didn't lose anything. You can't lose what you never valued. Maybe, Sveta shrugged, but now he knows you became someone he never deserved. Anna looked out the window. A few pedestrians hurried down the sidewalk, each wrapped up in their own world. It doesn't matter to me what he thinks anymore, she said calmly. I'm living my life, Sveta nodded, smiling. Now that's what I call a real victory. Anna wrapped her hands around the warm cup. Yes, now I have everything I once dreamed of, Sveta snorted softly. Everything? Oh no, my friend, you're just getting started, Anna laughed. She knew there was still more ahead, more work, new projects, bigger dreams. But now she was certain of one thing. She would never again allow anyone to control her future. The past was exactly where it belonged, and her life now belonged only to her. Thank you for listening to this story. Please excuse any mistakes. Share your thoughts in the comments, and if you enjoyed it, subscribe to the channel.